Hey,
Good
Prof.
morning.
Good morning. Good morning to
Morning,
you too.
Bibby.
How are you, sir?
Very well
Uh,
indeed. Thank you. Please drop the sides, okay?
you're a prof. You're a prof. Have you ever heard any prof that they don't use sir for? We just need for you to be knighted so that we can make it official.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to nominate me first. I was disappointed when, the Queen's Honors list came and nobody nominated me for an honor.
I
How
know
come?
with all of the work that you're doing on
I know.
SonRise, I know it's like it's anyway. Don't worry, I'll have a word with our viewers because this is what they should be doing, nominating you
I know.
for it. Don't worry,
Nominate
it
me,
is
yeah.
coming.
Okay.
Viewers, good morning to you all. Thank you for joining us again this morning. This is your favorite Sunday morning show, SonRise. It's so great to have you guys join us this morning. It's Sunday. The weather has been just hit and miss here and there. I
The
think
days
it
are
was
getting
on.
longer. The days are getting longer. So that's a
Well,
plus.
that's
You
a
win.
plus, but bro, I haven't really started noticing as such. You understand? Because I tend to want to work out between 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning, but I'm not able to do that still because it's still very dark. So I'm having to work out indoors as opposed to going out for runs. So, but anyways, we are grateful for all seasons that we find ourselves in. We are grateful. I remember on Tuesday, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday. Actually, it was on Tuesday. I went out for I just went out to get something around 12 p.m. and the fog outside was horrible. And I was like, what is going on? This is meant to be what? This is proper. So I've agreed now. It is proper winter in January. And I agree that I am a winter baby. So for our viewers that you didn't know, well, my birthday was on Friday. I had a good day. So yes, happy birthday to me. I'm going to myself.
Happy birthday, the baby.
No, Prof,
baby.
you have to sing. You have to sing. For me to accept it, you'd have to sing.
Time and place, baby. Time and place.
Anyway, so yes, so good to be on the show again this morning. Prof, we are in the 4th week of January already. This is like the last full week of the month.
Yeah, today's the 23rd.
By next week, we've only got one or 2 days, and then we're in February. So, a few weeks ago, all of us were at some point in time, making plans for the new year. For people who are into New Year resolutions, people wrote them down. People had goals they wrote down. And some people, fair enough, probably had a good time in terms of, some people probably even had interviews, for some who had interviews just between New Year and Christmas, or between Christmas and New Year. And they were so sure about getting the job in the new year, and that would kickstart their year very well. Or someone who has said to themselves, oh, I would like to start working out from 1st of January. But guess what? Come the 1st of January. So we say, oh yeah, 1st of January. It's a holiday. We just enjoy. We're not doing anything. I'll start tomorrow. And then come 2nd of January, that still didn't happen. Or for that individual who went for an interview and was so bent on getting this job, with even preparing for it, they've had packed their bags, ironed their clothes and everything, got their desk ready to start working, just to hear that unfortunately, they didn't get the job. Now, these are the kind of people I want us to kind of look at, where we've started the year we've had a false start to the year. What do you say to people like this? I mean, how do you see it? I'm sure you also had some things that to start the year with, and how are you getting on with those things?
Yes, thank you, baby. As always, when we start these things, we know that we're coming up to a break. So just use this couple of minutes to set the foundation. I find it very interesting how you set this up and you called it a false start. And yes, what you've described, I think that everybody who's lived more than 5 years of their lives would identify with a lot of what you mentioned. With that, early optimism starting the year. As the new year comes, wherever you ended up going into the new year from, whether you were at church or wherever else, and you come in and you say, this is going to be different. That relationship is going to be different. And then 3 weeks into the year, you're back to fighting, right? 3 weeks into the year, the same thing you'd said, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. You find yourself, you've made the mistake. And I think that's where you've said, you've got that term of false start from. What I think we're going to do today is to provide some perspective around it, right? And I think first, along those lines of perspective, is to look at that analogy. For those who are not aware, which I imagine would be a very, very tiny minority, a false start, usually the context of this is usually in a sprint or in a race, right? I mean, any track race has the potential for people to have a false start in it. But usually you see it mostly with dashes, right? With sprint races, 100 meters, 200, 110 hurdles.
Yeah.
You don't often see people starting a marathon and they have a false start, whether that's possible. Yeah. And so I think the first perspective to put there, and I know some people think about it this way, which is why I think that analogy you used is very apt. Some people think about this as a race, like the way you race against other people in these track races. And the first thing I want to say, as far as the analogy is concerned, that's where this analogy fails. You are not racing against other people.
Yeah.
So if you started the year and straight away you're thinking, oh, look at where these guys have gone, I have made a false start, get that out of your mind. You're not racing against other people. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, often what happens when you have a false start, at least with current rules, is that people get disqualified. The other thing you have to get into your mind is this is not one of those races. The only person that can disqualify you from this race is yourself. If you decide right at the beginning, I'm going to throw in the towel because I made a false start. Otherwise, the race is still on. So we need to go for our break, but I hope that takes somewhere.
Yes, you've already set it right there. So viewers, don't go anywhere. When we come back, it will be our spotlight minutes. We'll see you shortly.
See you.
The Egyptians relentless on our trail. The Red Sea impassable in our fall. Between a rock and a hard place. Insurmountable, unnavigable, untraversable the terrain might be. Yet, the voice of He who set the world in motion I hear. In the midst of darkness He speaks light. Trapped in a repetitive cycle the days have seemed. But now, I hear Him say, turn you northwards. I hear Him say, go forward, for I will make a way where there seems to be no way. Against all odds, 2022 is our year to advance. The prophetic word from heaven over our lives in this new year is advance. The Red Sea will part, the Jordan will back up, the rocks, the mountains will give way. All He requires of you is to advance in faith. In the face of daunting odds, advance. It is your time to advance. Go forward.
Good morning, Pastor Chris. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Back again. Yeah, exactly. But you're one of those people when you come, we don't need to introduce you, right? Everybody knows.
Exactly, yes. Yes, maybe the only thing we just need to add to his name is Pastor Chris Fine Boy. So for those that probably don't know,
that's fine.
Thank you for joining us again, sir. It's so good to have you on the show. Viewers, help us to welcome Pastor Chris. It was on stage. The last time you saw him on stage, he was probably preaching or introducing Pastor Temi or doing all of these pastoral duties. But today, he's here on SonRise. He's just going to be Pastor Chris. So we will call him Pastor Fine Boy. So
that's all right.
We still keep the title there.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for joining. Please love on Pastor Chris. Thank you again. So Pastor Chris, this morning you've joined us for our Spotlight Minutes, which is a bit different to what you had the last time when you came, which was, you had to answer some questions about yourself and all of that. This time around, we want to get to know you a bit more. So when I say a bit more, trying to get a bit of insight into some of the, if you like, experiences in your life. So we want you to share with us one experience that you've had recently, might be recent or maybe at some point in your life, that you think, actually, this is worth sharing because it's made a huge impact in my life and I feel like people can learn something from this. So can you please share something with us this morning?
Yeah, I have an incredible experience which I would like to share. It's something that it was a moment of what I would call a time for me to be famous or to shine. which turned out to be something that I regret.
Really?
Yeah, I'll probably share in terms of what I learned, which the viewers can actually take home.
Oh, so, wow. Yeah. So, Pastor Chris, sorry, sir, before you go on, so you're going to be sharing with us an experience, a time that you had the opportunity to be famous, and then
to actually make it in life.
Really? Oh God! All right. I'm sure everyone wants to hear this. I want to hear, because I want to make it in life. Maybe I'll learn something from it. So, Pastor Chris, please tell us a bit more about this experience, sir.
All right. I'll start with this phrase. There's this common phrase that if you want to hide anything from a black man, just put it on paper, because we hate to read. So about 28 years ago, thereabout, when I came into this country newly, I used to play football, Sunday football. So after church, we go to a field in Hackney. Then I used to go to Christ Chapel, and so we will play football Saturday, and then we'll play Sunday. So on this particular Saturday morning, there were scouts around. Wow. We're watching. Now, normally I play, as a striker. So they watched the game, and after the game, they just spotted 4 people, and I happened to be one of those people that they spotted. They said, well, they are from Nike, and they're trying to do a campaign, and if you're willing, and if you're chosen in terms of, we'll take some pictures, you will be on a poster, which they will put all over the place in the UK. And hey, I was quiet. I said, yeah, why not? Let's do it. So they gave us a paper whereby, please sign. I did not read the fine print. I signed. So it happened that one day I was working I think I used to work in Wandsworth. So I was going to work, and my station there was Greenfield Station. As I got into the station, it's about 5 weeks after the incident, I saw my poster. My poster was all over the underground.
Wow.
And they had the caption, my picture, no name, I was wasted in defense. Now, because because I'm a striker, so that caption would tell you, oh, hang on a second, well, this guy was played out of position. And I was going to work that morning, gone to the office, and my boss would tell me, oh, this guy, you have made it. You saw your picture, and I didn't get a dime. So
no way.
Yeah, so what happened then afterwards, there was a lawyer in church, said, well, this is wrong, and blah, blah, I said, it's wrong. So I went to his office, did the consultation, and wrote letter to Nike. This is exploitation. Now back to my earlier statement. If you want to hide anything from a black man, put it on print.
Wow.
I did not read the fine print.
Oh, wow.
After back and forth of legal letter, and after 2 weeks, my solicitor called me and said, well, sir, Pastor Chris, I think, you signed that.
Signed it.
And all I got was, some couple of T-shirts and 3 trainers, and that was it. So since then, I will read every fine print before I sign.
Wow. Now I get where every time we send you something, you have to read every single thing, because you come back and say, Bibby, there was something missing here, or I didn't understand this. Wow. Okay, so Pastor Chris, thank you so much for sharing this with us, because I know even before you going into what you learned or what people can learn from it, I'm sure people are already picking a few things from this. But just before we get into that, can you please just tell us, why did this make an impact in your life?
It made an impact in my life in the sense that now I'm more, so I regret what I could have actually made out of that. Mm-hmm. So it's just a free publicity. So when I still have the poster, lovely poster. So when I look at it, oh my God, can you beat that? And a moment of opportunity in life, Nike used me, okay, good caption. I was wasting defense, and all I got was 3 T-shirts and 1 trainers. Oh, come off it. So that makes me again. And then secondly, make me, now I'm more careful in, you give me anything, mortgage paper, no matter how tiny, I'll put my magnifying glass, I will read it before I sign.
And you read it. That's really good.
So it makes me more, actually, to be more committal to whatever somebody did for me, or whatever I want to get into. So I pay more attention to it.
That's really good. Thank you so much, sir. So for our viewers this morning, as I said, I'm sure they've already picked a few things, but what would you say as a take home for them? For anyone who is watching this morning, what would be that one thing that you would say, do you know what, from this experience, I would want you to take this away? Take away,
always be, education and be as informed as possible before you make any decision.
Wow.
So your decision is an informed decision. So if you look at that story, I made a decision, but it was not informed at all. Possibly I was actually, maybe people call me vain. Oh, Nike, my picture. I was just too hasty, and I signed my life on the dotted line. They took my picture, and they happened to like the picture. I was selected. They came up with a fantastic phrase. I was wasted in the fence. Nothing out of it. So.
Oh, wow.
So you would say that taking the time to read the fine print is not a waste of time.
It's not a waste of time. That's what it is. Thank you so very much.
Investment which will pay off.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's really good. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Because even me, I've just learned, because I'm very quick to go over any fine prints. Like, yeah, fine, just sign. So yes, I've learned something as well. Thank you again, sir, for sharing with us this morning. It's so great to have you again on the show. People, please love on Pastor Chris.
Thank you,
sir. We look forward to having you around soon. Thank you. See you in service. All right, bye. Bye.
The prophetic word from heaven over our lives in this new year is advance. It is your time to advance. Go forward.
Wow. Welcome back, viewers. Oh, wow. That was so profound. I mean, Prof, I feel like service is starting from here already, like all the nuggets that we'll get from service, it's all starting from here, because Pastor Chris just said, viewers, please, if anyone is just joining us and you missed that segment, you need to watch this again. You truly need to watch it again. Just hear about Pastor Chris's experience. It was almost famous. I'll say famous, but just didn't get paid for it.
He finally got there.
he finally got there now, because right now he's on TV. But yes, as I said, people, please let us take the time to read, to understand what we're getting into. Before you sign that paper, make sure you read through, okay? So thank you again, Pastor Chris. So great to have you on the show. So Prof, back to what we were discussing before we went on Spotlight Minute. So we're talking about making a false start to the year, and you've started, I love the way you left it, where you started talking about, when you get disqualified in a normal race, because you had a false start. This is not the same as when you start a new year on a note that you didn't really plan to start on. So please, can you take it from there and continue your thoughts with us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Bibby. This discussion this topic that you've raised is one that is close to my heart, because I just in life, in work, in ministry, come across people who have those questions every time. It's very easy for us at the beginning of the year to emphasize and dwell on the successes, and maybe nobody wants to be vulnerable enough to tell you that 3 weeks into the year it's really not going well, because you kind of feel almost like a failure. Come on, the year hasn't even started, and what have I got to show for it? Some people would say, when I came to the crossover, when I was getting over to the new year, I was so full of faith, so full of hope. I don't know what's gone on. Maybe it's my fault. And that's why I like some of the examples you gave about just not being something that the person could control. Because when we talk about where we've decided to go work out and all of that stuff, it's kind of, that's all within your control. You chose to go work out. You chose not to work out. But what of when you had that interview lined up and then you prepared everything and you believed that was going to come through and it didn't, right? Yeah. What happened when you had all those things that you had laid all those plans well thought out, and then just something came from left field and knocked everything out of kilter, out of line. And that's why this is important, right? And it's really about those two things. Number one, the race is not against anybody. And there's the funny thing, when the Bible was talking about Jesus in the book of Hebrews, called him the author and finisher, right? Faith. He is the starter. It's funny, right? He's so fast that he shoots the starting gun, And then by the time you get to the finish line, he's there too.
There, yes.
He starts it and he finishes, and really that's your framework of reference, your frame of reference. Not other people, not what people are doing, not even, I guess, the timelines and the particular things you had in mind. We have to plan, of course. We have to set those things in motion, but also remember that God supersedes the plans that we have. He's greater than those plans. And the whole idea of him being the beginning and the end, the first and the last, that really means that no matter what goes wrong or goes right, it's all within his capacity to handle and to work with. There's nothing he can't work with, right? There's nothing he can't work through. And that brings me to that second point of people disqualifying themselves. I put it that way because that's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
Nobody is disqualifying you. Indeed, even if somebody tries to disqualify you, nobody has the right and the permission to disqualify you unless you give it to them. Right? Because this race is a race that has been set before you. You know, Paul put it this way. He said the course that is set before me. Yeah. It's not somebody that I'm racing against, not another person. It's this conversation with the author and the finisher. It's this discussion you had in those intimate moments. It's that vision that he gave to you, that you received from above. And that's not going to change because you had a false start. And that's the third thing I also wanted to say around that. First thing was, you're not racing against other people. Second thing, you can't be disqualified from the start. And the third thing, it's not a sprint. It is not a sprint.
It isn't. It did, yes.
It's not a sprint. Yeah. So it's not a race you have to finish in 10 seconds. Yeah. Right. And put that into context. If you're doing a 26-mile race, okay, so you started a little bit after everybody else. So what? Yes. You're not going to find the winner of that race. Again, you're not running against anybody else, but you're not going to determine how quickly you're going to finish that race because you started a few minutes late or a few seconds late. That's right. Yeah. And we need to understand that first and foremost, our times are in his hands, right? We are not alone, right? We don't stand up, in isolation somewhere, make some things up and then say, you know what, it's on our shoulders, completely up to us to make these things happen. I'll finish what I'm saying with one illustration. Driving, for those who drive, particularly in the UK or at least in the countries where you use satellite navigation, you probably understand this illustration a bit more. So when I first started to drive, and at the time, satellite navigation was not as much of a thing as it is now, which was, we didn't have Google Maps so available. We had TomTom, those things.
TomTom, yes.
Yeah. And if you started to drive and either you didn't have a TomTom because, those things cost money at the time. If you're just starting off, you're usually, a student or something and you can't afford to buy a TomTom, right? Yeah. So you start driving, and then as you just start driving, you know that experience you have when you get to where you're supposed to make a turning and you miss the turn.
Yes.
Now, two things. One situation, you don't have a satellite navigational tool. So what do? You don't know how else to get to where you're going. So you start to panic. And you start to turn around to get yourself back to the same place because you don't really know another route. That's one. And that's what I'm saying. That's not what we're doing. If you try to do that, you're driving blind because you don't know how else to. The second thing is where you have a sat nav and then you miss the turning. And then you think, oh dear, I've missed my turning. And you drive as though you didn't. Well, yeah, but that's the thing. You drive as though you didn't have a sat nav. And you try to get back to where you started.
True, yes.
And that's not it either. The third thing, what we should be doing is exactly what you said, Bibby.
Yes.
If you have a sat nav, trust the sat nav because it will recalculate.
Take it to where you're going.
Turning, don't panic. Don't worry about it. Keep going because the sat nav can see like 1,000 steps ahead of what you can see by yourself.
Yes.
And the sat nav will recalculate to get you to that destination. So if you think you've had a false start, don't worry about it. Recalculate.
And I love that. Don't worry about it. Recalculate. This sat nav thing that you're saying, it is so common that even especially for a route that you actually do know. So maybe one day you get into your car, you're driving that route, you're using your sat nav just in case anything happens on the road, and the sat nav asks you to take somewhere else, just exits maybe somewhere that you wouldn't on a normal day. But because you feel like you know this route, why are you asking me to take it? So why should I? And you ignore it. Then you find out that you've actually made the greatest mistake of your life at that point because you chose not to trust the sat nav. Prof, I think there isn't anything. In fact, this show is just giving me life. Like, you know, everything we're learning, everything we're saying from Pastor Chris, from what you've said now, it's like we're just ending, we're taking it to another level this year. Truly, we are advancing. We are advancing, truly. So thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you for that. You know, people, let's trust God. Let's trust the process. Doesn't matter if you've had a false start of the year to the year. Keep going. Whatever it is that you want to do. I always say this. You have plans, you write goals down, you have all of these things down. But also bear in mind that things might not go the way you've planned them, but still doesn't mean that you won't get that thing that you want to get. So let's keep focused and keep going. Prof, it is time for service. You know, let's go and get all of this crowned with the icing on the cake from Pastor Temi. So please take us into service.
Thank you, Bibby. And I think you've really summed it up right. There's nothing more to add. Let's keep advancing. Let's keep going. So with this same enthusiasm, with just bearing in mind everything we've heard, let's not go anywhere. Let's see you at the service. Pastor Temi's got something for us. It's Advanced Sunday number 3 in January.
That's right. Yes.
Don't go anywhere. See you there. God bless you. Bye.